Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Empowered Musician of the Month. This month, we have Johanna Nordhorn. She is a professional mezzo-soprano, and she's created a super unique career path that combines teaching and singing and healing. It's so exciting to have you with us today.
Thank you
Just a
very
little,
much.
yeah, just a little bit more of an introduction. As a professional opera singer, you performed all over the nation and you've been recognized by some pretty prestigious competitions, like the Metropolitan National Council Awards. And along with your studio voice students, you've also taught on voice faculties at University of Central Florida, Valencia College, Webster University. And one of the coolest parts of your career, in my humble opinion, is that you're a certified Reiki master and you incorporate that into your studio, your singing, and your other correlating careers, as you are the creator of Starshine Healing Songs, which I am so excited to get into. But please let us know if I've missed anything or if there's anything upcoming that we should know about.
Oh gosh, that already sounds really good. I would say, I don't know if this is correlating or not, but I'm also dipping my toe into animal Reiki and animal communication. That's been like my latest passion and extra work that I'm taking on. So
That is incredible. I don't think we've ever had an empowered musician who's done that.
probably not. It's kind of way out there, but I think you get it.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely get into that a little bit more. But before we do that, I would like for you to kind of tell us about how you got into music, what your musical education looked like.
Yes, I'll try to keep it short and not too boring. I like as a little kid, I was always like that little kid who was just like la la la, just singing like all the time. I think my parents told me they put me in church choir at age 2, so I was just just singing and not thinking much about it really. Like I don't actually remember learning how to read music. I think it was so I was so little. You know what I mean? I just always sort of sang and thought that that was normal until I was around other friends that were like, "Stop singing all the time." And then fast forward to like high school, I had a choral director who saw something in me. One of my friends told me later I was like a really bad singer, but apparently I was really musical, like, kind of innately whatever. And so he called my parents, and I thought I was like in big trouble. And instead, he said, "You really need to put this girl in voice lessons. Like, I think there's something there." And then it just kind of snowballed. Like, I thought I was going to be like a dolphin trainer or like, I don't know, an equestrian or something. And then yeah, I just got good at it. And then when it came time to do college stuff, I started getting offered like full rides places. And then my parents were like, "Oh, okay. So this is a real thing that you can do in your life." So yeah, I back on track. I went to a tiny liberal arts school in Georgia. It's now called Shorter University, for my undergrad, and that was great. Lots of like individual attention. And then I chose to go to a bigger school for my grad school, Indiana University. And yeah, that's sort of my trajectory into the classical singing world. It definitely was not like on purpose.
I'm wondering, like, in your education, I read that you had a light bulb moment that the classical singing like wasn't enough for you and that you wanted more to feel fulfilled. I'm wondering when that light bulb moment happened and a little bit more about what your discovery was.
Yeah, I've always been like a helper. Like I have this like deep like sort of pathological need to like help people. Like even when I was running like cross country in high school, my favorite part would be like waiting for my teammates at the end and like helping them like if they fell or if they needed water or like I've just always had this deep like need to feel like I'm tangibly helping people, and I know that performing can do that, and I don't want to take away from that at all because I think that's really powerful. But for me, I felt like there was something else like in me that I could give or help with, and teaching does that a lot for me. Like it gets the nurturing aspect of my personality out, and I don't have kids, so it works out really nicely that way. And then I don't know, I was just kind of following this like spiritual path and studying a couple different things like Reiki and Diksha, and I just yeah, it's hard to describe. I don't feel like I'm saying it very well, but I just felt this deep down need, like there's something else that I'm supposed to be doing. That was probably, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 10 years ago. Yeah. And then I just started to get songs in my head from my friends who were having like trouble. I would just hear like a whole song with the lyrics and the chords like in my head out of the blue. And I started sending these songs to my friends like, hey, this is really weird. I'm not sure why, but I think that the song is for you. And it was like a brand new song that I'd never heard. And that's when Starshine Healing songs started to be a thing. So I started to do it more on purpose. Some people call it like channeling, which sounds like a little scary, but yeah,
Wow.
I'll pause
What
there.
what do you tell other singers who might feel like they have a missing piece? It sounds like you went on this spiritual journey. Is that something you'd recommend for people?
I think I think the tell the truth thing, like tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. Like be really still if you can. Get still with yourself. It can be really hard too these days with everything going on. And just look at yourself and figure out like what is it that I miss? What am I lacking? What am I like yearning for? And it could be anything. It could be someone really wants to have a baby, or someone really wants, I don't know, to travel more, or to have, for me it's always dogs. I want more dogs. Even now. But I think that just telling the truth to yourself about what you really want, even if it's different than what we were taught, is like the ultimate goal, in school. And then figuring out what you're willing to sacrifice to get that thing, if anything, and then just going from there. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
I think it totally does.
Yeah,
Being
just be
truthful,
honest.
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes when you're like conditioned to be like, oh, the only best thing of my life could be singing at the Met, which is amazing. That would be so great too. But there are also like other things.
Absolutely. Yeah, Dana Varga talks about like the pipeline of classical singing and how that really only works for 1% of the population. So what you're doing is really awesome. When did you get certified as a Reiki master and what does that involve?
I wanted to like define, because I wonder if a lot of people don't know what Reiki is. So I'll say I think I started my training way back in 2010. And there are like a couple different lineages you can do and different trainings. So I've kind of done a bunch of different things with it. But just like a blanket definition is it's a Japanese form of energy healing, which sounds really woo woo, but it's not scary. And it reduces stress and it promotes healing. They usually say it's a stress reduction technique, so it sounds a little less woo woo to people who aren't familiar with it. Um, but yeah, that's what that is. Did I miss any part of your question?
When did you become
When?
trained and what did that involve?
Yeah, so it started out in 2010, and actually I had started out with another sort of modality called Diksha. One of my friends dragged me to like a weekend training. I didn't even know what I was going to. I wasn't even like a very spiritual person, but I trusted her. And by the end of that weekend, I was like a trained Diksha giver, and it kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things, like, oh, this is real. I can feel the energy in my hands, and I can see the energy moving. And then yeah, Reiki, I started that a couple of years later, and it really doesn't take long to be trained. It depends sort of who you go through and do it with. My first training, I ended up redoing like 8 years later because I wanted like a more official training. My last few have been through the International Center for Reiki Training, which means I can also now teach and certify other people to also be Reiki masters, which is pretty cool. But it doesn't take long, not at all. Surprisingly simple.
Yeah, that's awesome. How has this branch of your life incorporated into your like musical career? Has it helped you, your students,
Yeah,
all of that?
I never thought that I would be combining it or even like talking about it in a public way. I thought, oh, this is too weird. I don't think that like my students will want to talk about this, but I just kind of did it for me, and then I started to slowly sort of float it out to my more woo-woo students. You know, do you know what woo-woo? You probably do. Means like sort of
More spiritual,
spiritual. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And you know, they were all like, I want to try. That sounds so cool. So I ended up, you know, using Reiki with a lot of my voice students. And at first I thought they would need to be sort of two separate things. But now what's happening is that I'll have, and most of my students are adults at this point, they'll come in and say, and they're all online too. So when I say come in, they'll like Zoom in or whatever and say, oh, I have like, I've got a little cough going. I'm really tired. Can we start our lesson with like 20 minutes of Reiki and grounding? And then can we do like the last 40 minutes singing? And it's so remarkable. And I'm not like bragging about myself, I'm bragging about Reiki because I feel like I'm just sort of the conduit that it goes through. But to take that time to like talk a little bit and ground. And then I send them some Reiki. It kind of looks like this. I just kind of put my little palms up and beam it. It's amazing how much more we get done afterwards in terms of singing because their nervous system is sort of back to normal. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
I did not set out to combine the two, and I was nervous to bring it up, and I'm even nervous like talking about it now. But it's turned into this like really cool thing. And now, when my students have to cancel if they're sick or whatever, I'll always say, "Would you like me to send you some Reiki in lieu of your voice lesson if you're feeling bad?" And they'll say, "Yes, that would be so great, thank you." So yeah, yeah. I guess I could go into more specifics about how it's helpful for them. I don't know if you want to know any about that.
I saw that you got a grant to study, I think it was performance anxiety or better performance habits, like
Yeah.
in relation to mindset and Reiki. Can you go into that more? That was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that was so cool. So that was a workshop called Fearless Performance, and it's still going on. It's headed up by Jeff Nelson, who's a famous French horn player. He's part of the Canadian Brass. He's also on faculty at IU. So a little shout out to Jeff. And this was probably actually before I was really openly doing Reiki with my students. Maybe a few, but the whole workshop was about yeah mindset. And you know, he's like me. I think there's a lot of crossover for him in like mindfulness and performing. And um yeah, again, he had some like very simple techniques but extremely powerful. And I went not as a teacher but as a performer. So I had to like do all the exercises myself and perform over and over and over and over again for the class and like try them all on like in my body. And by the end of the class, my last performing experience, I was so focused that literally the entire room blacked out and I could only see this much in front of me. That's how like in character, and it was crazy. So I'm happy to share like some of those tools if you're curious, or if people just want to like look him up.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. Give us a couple because I know that I think especially post-pandemic, a lot of us are not
oh,
used to, the big crowds anymore. It's kind of a weird adjustment.
it's such a weird adjustment. Yeah, I really feel that. I really feel that too. Um, he talks a lot about like the why, like why am I singing? Like, what do I get out of it? And then also figuring out like what the little minions in your mind are saying to you that are hard. Like for me, it's one of my big ones is like, I'm not enough. That's like a big, so he's like, you have to figure out what your brain is saying and then find a loving like affirmation to counteract that. So now sometimes before I walk on stage, I think to myself, like, I am enough. Another big one that's helped me that I use with my students and not a lot, which is really simple, is they are rooting for me, like the audience. I know we often feel like it's like me versus them, or like they're judging us. And like we literally go into competitions where there are judges, like that's the title of the people. And as someone who has now judged competitions and been like on voice faculties during auditions, it's true. Like we really are rooting for you, and just that simple shift of when you look out thinking they're rooting for me. I don't It seems like really silly and simple, but it really helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mindset is everything. I'm not sure if you've read like The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, like
I
this,
have it.
everything you're talking about.
I literally have it right here on my shelf.
We have to plug that book because
Yeah, wait, let me stop and hold it up again. The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron. Yeah, I'm right next to like my bookshelf here, so.
oh, love that. I'm wondering how these correlating careers and just general self work that you've been doing, like how does that also help you as like financially, like how does that make you feel secure in what you're doing in your career?
It's so interesting because I never set out to do Reiki to like make money. I didn't even really set out to do it for anyone else. I just set out to kind of learn it like for myself and grow. And I feel like there's this thing that like when you kind of follow like the thing that like lights you up and your passion, like it will eventually bring you into abundance, and so like physically, financially, like it's helped me because I'm now like making money from that. And I have this balance of teaching and Reiki and singing. And it's not like I'm solely dependent on one of them. And plus it just makes me like really happy, like really, really happy. So I would say, yeah, I didn't set out to do it for the money, but it's definitely been helpful financially.
Oh, that's awesome. And then how do you find a healthy relationship with like these things that bring you, solace while also bringing you money? Like I know that a
Mhm.
lot of people
Yeah.
go into conservatory with music as their hobby, something that brings them joy, and then it sucks the life out when it
Oh
becomes
yeah.
your livelihood. Can you
Yes.
describe how you avoid that?
Yes, I think that's like so important. And I think we all get like sort of burnt out or like sucked the life out of us at some point, like all of us do. So I just want to acknowledge that. I remembering like this time at Indiana where I went to like a party, and basically like everybody brought like their other instrument. So it was all singers, but there was like a guy with a banjo and my friend like Jamie with her guitar and like someone else, and we all just sat around and sang like weird like folk songs and like just jammed like in a way that like we never ever would. And I think there's like the kernel in that is like you have to remember what you loved about it before it became your job, and then do parts of that for just for yourself that aren't for money. Like this past week I was feeling a little, I don't know, a little moody, a little whatever, and I thought, what do I need? And I was like, I just need to sing some Beatles. So I like found a chord chart for like Let It Be, and I got on my little piano. I didn't record it. I didn't think about my technique. I didn't do any of that. I just sang it, and it felt so good to just like let it rip and be really, I don't know, just not thinking about anyone watching me, not singing classically necessarily. Yeah, so that's like a long-winded answer of I think it's just really important to do it for fun in like a different way. And then on the Reiki side, I what I've had to be careful with is boundaries. Boundaries. It's like Reiki is like very like open, and people often share like a lot of stuff with me, and we form these like lovely bonds. And often they kind of want to like hang on to me a little bit, like energetically. I'll, or ask for things outside of their session that aren't really they're not paying for, and I like hesitate to even say it like that because I don't want to look bad, but I've had to like set some compassionate boundaries like, okay, great. Did you want to schedule a session to talk through that? Did you, like I think, yeah, boundaries have helped keep it like, and also I have like Reiki friends, that we just like have a little group and we like practice on each other, and yeah, that's helpful too.
I love that. It's like making sure that you don't burn out so that you can be in service to other people, not being so in service that you discount yourself.
I can't. I've done it. It's like my personality to kind of be that like rescue and like overgive, and I've had to work really really hard to not do that, because and I always know that I'm in danger like of getting into that zone when I start to feel resentment. That's like my tip off, like, oh, okay, time to set some boundaries, time to take a little time, because I don't ever want to be that like resentful grumpy teacher, or you really like resentment and Reiki, like those don't really can't go together. So
Oh,
I have to.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is very good advice. I'm sure we could all learn from this.
Well, it's only because I needed to hear it myself from someone else. So
Absolutely. Okay, so we're finishing up our interview here. I'm wondering if you have any outside hobbies outside of your work that kind of prevent you from burnout.
I kind of live like kind of a simple life right now. Like we moved to the beach about a year and a half ago. That was like my life's dream, and I thought I was gonna have to wait until we retired, but we found like an affordable little like beach community, and I don't live like right on the water, but I live a mile from the ocean. So but just going to the beach and like walking on the ocean or riding my bike around, like it seems simple, but it makes me really happy. The animal communication is like my new thing. I'm taking some courses on it and I'm practicing. And that's, I know it sounds like it's work, but it feels like a hobby. I feel like I'm learning, I'm like reading books about it, and it's just really like lighting me up. And I love to read in general, and I really like being around animals. That makes me happy. Yeah, and nothing too exciting. I really like thrifting and I love crocheting. So yeah, I would say yeah, nothing really like cool like surfing,
Are
but
you kidding?
many.
All those things are really cool.
Thanks. Oh,
Absolutely. Yeah, you're just living the life on the beach, talking to animals, practicing Reiki, and making a wonderful singing career for yourself. That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. I'm wondering if we could end here kind of talking about what makes you feel the most empowered, and what makes you the most joyful.
I think for me, as someone who's like been like a people pleaser like my whole life, a recovering people pleaser, the most empowering things for me are like setting up my life the way that I want it and guarding my like time and my energy. So not ever being like nasty about it, but just saying like no, no, I need a couple days to think through XYZ before I make a decision, or no, I'm not going to sing like 8 songs at this funeral service. My limit is 2. I'd be happy to help you select blah blah blah. I'm singing a funeral on Saturday, so that's that's in my head. I think it seems odd, but like saying learning to say no and to only say yes to the gigs that feel like really good for me and that like I know will honor my limits, if that makes sense. I hope that doesn't come off as negative, but yeah. And
Not at
then,
all.
is that the whole question? Is there another piece?
Yeah, whatever makes you feel the most empowered and joyful. I think that was a good answer for both, but take the floor.
Joyful is, I mean, you could probably see me as I talk about it, like certain things, like I love working with my students. I love seeing like the light bulb go off. Like it makes me feel very good to be in that flow and like know that I'm helping. And same stuff I talked about before. Animals make me super, super joyful. Um, yeah, singing. I don't know.
That's
The
wonderful.
Yeah, it's all my hobbies, yeah, all the things I go towards. And just, yeah, trying to be like open to the next right step, I would say. It's like I don't know exactly where I'm going, but I think I've always been led in the right direction when I take it nice and easy and just kind of follow like the breadcrumbs instead of like, this is my plan for my life. That usually doesn't work out very well.
Well, you are preaching to me. That is something that I'm working on, and I'm sure a lot of young singers are. The culture is just so go, go, go. So it's been
It
really
is.
refreshing to hear your take on how you manage it all. So I thank you so much for speaking with us. Johanna Nordhorn is our Empowered Musician of the Month. You should check her out on our social media. And thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your week.
It's been my pleasure, really. Okay.
Take care.
You too.